In this video, I'll be giving you a sample weekly curriculum, which you obviously do not have to follow to the T, but can give you some inspiration on some of the things you can add to your curriculum if you already have it, or some things you can add to your rotation, to your routine, so you can keep learning. You've heard of the saying that learning is a lifelong process, which it is. There is always opportunity to learn, and there is so much benefit to learning. Not to mention that the downside to not learning is just so big. You've heard of the saying, use it or lose it. It works with muscles. If you stop training a muscle, it starts to, what's the word? Atrophy. Yeah. So, same thing with the brain. It needs engagement, constant, consistent engagement for it to be used and triggered and worked so it stays in tip top shape. There is a phenomenon called neuroplasticity, and I'll put the official definition here, but basically, think in simple terms, think of the first time you do something, probably takes twice as much, even just as simple as driving to someone's house. It takes twice as much time the first time to do it, and then after 3 4 times you do it, like you don't even have to think about it. And that's what we're trying to do. That there are things that we do in our lives, like maybe you wake up and grab a glass of water next to your bed, where they are automatic and they mold your brain in that sense. So what we are trying to do is make our brains find it easier to absorb information and to use that information in an intellectual way and actually put out a more positive outcome, either for the people around us or for ourselves. Now, obviously, if you're not scared of getting Alzheimer's and dementia, learning is also really beneficial. I don't want, the whole point of this, honestly, is to learn for the sake of learning. But if you're the kind of person who does not see the point in doing anything without any benefit, in fact, there's going to be a point here where I talk about career. So there are things that you can actually benefit beyond just learning for the sake of learning. Although it is also still very important to realize that some of the things, in fact, many of the things you will learn, there will be no direct benefit. But trust me, after some time, you will realize why it is important to learn, because something you learned while maybe exploring something in geography can still be used and applied in music or something else. Not to be cheesy, but if you've listened to Steve Jobs, is it Stanford's speech?
Reed College at that time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label on every drawer was beautifully hand calligraphed. Because I had dropped out and didn't have to take the normal classes, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. And we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I had never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have them.
That speech stayed with me. So, as you can see, Steve Jobs probably had a little curriculum as well. He was obviously a very intelligent man, so I'm sure he spent his life learning. So, that is a famous example that yielded so many results. And trust, even with the small projects you are working on, the things you are learning, even if you don't know it, they are still applicable in other areas of your life where it might not seem very obvious. And I know a lot of you guys only care about things that would make you more money. So just to put it out there right from the start, that can be an effect as well. Though that's definitely another reason why I'm doing this, as you'll see from my examples. So for those of you who already have, who don't need any help deciding on how to structure your curriculum, you can skip ahead to that time. I'll put it there once I edit, and you'll get to where I start talking about the curriculum. But for those of you who are new, who are green, these are some things you will need to think about before you develop your own curriculum. The first three things I always ask myself when I'm deciding what to learn: is there anything that needs to be done? Like, it's just on my to do list? Is there anything I need to create or would love to create? Is there a problem I need solved? And then finally, of course, maybe I said three things. Four, is there something I need to know? Yeah. And then from this is where you want to develop your curriculum. Like, yeah, it would be nice for me to know more about, I don't know, Arabian history, and I'm sure I will at some point, like like old school mathematicians in the Arab world. But at the moment, is that the highest priority for me right now? No. But in 2 years, maybe when I'm at a more comfortable place in my career, it probably will be. and then I'll do it then. I know right now learning is trending, but we don't want to learn for the aesthetics. We don't have the time nor the freedom and the money to waste on pointless learning, buying resources. So, what we actually want to do is learn things, yeah, for the sake of learning, but ideally, would it not be also nice to learn for the sake of learning and also get a little benefit from that? Doesn't have to be a direct benefit, but why not if it's possible? And if you don't have any answers to any of these that I just mentioned, then it's fine. Then you're in the perfect place to learn for the sake of learning. Oh, by the way, curiosity is also a valid reason. For example, yeah, so if you just feel naturally curious about music or someone, like right now, I'm really curious about Anthony Bourdain because he has a really cult following, and I'm like, you know what? I need to get into this guy and see what he is about. And yeah, so I'm going to read both his books and I'm going to watch his show. I'm still trying to find it on DVD because I bought a DVD player. Now, getting into the curriculum, the first area we're going to look at is what I just mentioned actually. You're to be read, to be seen, and to listen to list. So, if you have a to be read list, you have basically a mini curriculum, a sub curriculum. You already know what you want to read, unless this came from a recommendation, which is still okay. I'm assuming you got the recommendation from someone whose opinion you trust and who basically, who's for some, whether it's a workmate or it's a friend, your interests or curiosities or desires probably align in some way. So they're in that sense that it's also, they might be their curiosity, but it's also your curiosity. Yeah. So we don't want to go out there and start looking for new things to learn when you already have a list of things you already want to know and learn about and listen to. So start from there. Go to your to be read list, pick the one at the top of the list. If you can't pick, put them in alphabetical order and pick the first one or the last one. If you really can't pick, put them in a random picker and then just pick the one that is decided for you. Get that and read that. Very simple. I know for most of you, just from this, you're already going to have something on your curriculum. Second, if you don't have a to be read list, though I really think everyone should, just pick either one fiction book or one non-fiction book and add to your curriculum. Like I say in all my videos, I believe everyone is a reader and I think everyone should read. I am so adamant on that and I will not even be arguing with someone. Of course, if you can, this goes without saying. I do understand people have visual impairments and blindness and partial blindness, so they need to listen or whatever. In which case, I get that. Just put that a caveat so I don't get in some comments. Just while we're on the point of reading, I myself I don't read that many books. This is like a huge percentage of my collection, actually, maybe 50%. But I love reading. So essays count as well, but it has to be a pretty good, thick, lengthy essay that at least covers a topic or that goes at least 1,500 words or maybe 2K words ideally. Short stories count too. I have a book of short stories right there. And of course, Substacks. I'm struggling a bit with Substack at the moment, so I'm thinking I don't know if I should just print them out and then read them later. I truly have no idea how I'm going to do that, but that counts as well. I feel like movies to watch and music to listen to are very self explanatory. If you were going to listen to an album, this is your chance to do it and lie to yourself that you are learning something. I think it's learning, but some people might disagree. Also, movies to see. If you don't have specific movies you'd like to see, I think everyone does. Just pick a theme. Classics, French films, Korean films, films by a director. Tarantino, he only has 10 films, so I feel like that's a good one, a good place to start. Yeah, and just watch those, find us maybe 2 months up and spread them out and do that. Yeah, so those are my recommendations if you're not like an avid reader. And of course, if you're an avid reader, why are you here? Like, you don't need this video. You're better than the rest of us, so go enjoy your life, girlfriend or boyfriend. So, number two is going to be to read, which feels like I just discussed that. But for the person who does not have a to be read list, this is where you're going to create a new one, which I've still discussed above. But then also, so I'm just going to say that you need to set some goals, and this will depend on your on the necessity on why you're reading, and also your reading level. Number three in your curriculum is going to be creating. Now, don't run away. I understand this is very intimidating, but I'm not a creative person either. Of course, it helps so much that I have this channel, so it can be a creative outlet for me, but I'm also trying to create outside this because I feel like when you're creating for algorithms, there's certain things you need to do, and I would love to create for the sake of creating, no financial incentive, just to basically that question of what would you do if money was not an option, was not a problem, an object. Money was not object, which it definitely is in my life. I'm not a bajillionaire, so it's when I'm creating, it will be more something that I'm doing for myself and for no other reason. I'm thinking of making a summer outfit, like making a beaded and crochet dress like this, but I think mine is going to be quite terrible because I would like to go to Mexico in October, and I feel like such an outfit would be so fine, especially if I made it myself. But I also don't think I can do this. So I've been contemplating beading. I'm still undecided between the two because obviously I have to buy equipment. And then someone brought across the desk sewing. So I'm also contemplating that. But I also don't think I can sew the more intricate stuff because I do get quite obsessed with things when I start. Now I've already given you some options, and obviously these are all in the craft niche. But if you're a tech person, for example, this is your opportunity to build a website. This is the opportunity to play around with the AI tools and see what they can do. I'm not telling you to go to the AI tool and say create a picture of me as I don't know, a lawyer or something like that. That is not creating at all. If you've always had an app you wanted to build, see what the AI tools can do. And I know because I know they're definitely not going to be able to build the whole thing. And that way you can have a collaborative effect between the two of you. Also, just for career purposes on AI, I know most people hate AI. I do too. Like I would hate to consume AI art without knowing it. But at some point, hell, jobs are already asking for people to be able to use AI, and almost all of them mention AI. So yeah, we hate it, but also it's not going anywhere. So again, if you're not creative, this might be an opportunity for you to think around with what AI can do in your field. In fact, let's think about it that way. Perhaps don't try to create something with AI, but find out what can AI create in your field, and that can be a little side project for you. Maybe you can discuss with your boss, with your workmates, and also see what's out there, what companies are doing interesting things in your field. Because AI is doing some magnificent things in like cancer screening, detecting blood clots, which I think is fantastic. I'm sure if the AI people led with that instead of leading with AI slop, everyone would be more on board with AI, unlike how they are right now. So, besides the points I've mentioned, I just want to say everyone eats. And I've met some people who really hate cooking that they wouldn't try it even at all. But I think most people reasonably they can cook. So this is another avenue in which you can create, and you don't have to cook everything from scratch. You can buy some ingredients pre-made, like the dough of the bread pre-made. You can buy the chicken, rotisserie chicken, and make a sandwich. This is, I think, a great avenue for everyone to get creative. And once you do this, you can do this in the meantime while you try to cover what else you could create. But creativity is all around us. I like to do platters sometimes. I like to do a breakfast tray sometimes. That is still creating because I do go back and look at those pictures sometimes. Finally, I'll just say when you travel, consider vlogging that. You don't need to share this with anyone, but come back, edit that, and just keep it somewhere, share with your friends and your family, put on YouTube private, and then just send the link to people. I think, I don't know, like I just feel like you could be your own mini Tarantino if you did that. And maybe another thing I wanted to touch, I'll be making an album or a photo book, undecided, because I feel like, I don't know, yeah, I think a photo book definitely makes sense. I just pictured what albums used to look like because the pictures are behind that little plastic thing, and then to see them properly you have to pull them out, which I think might ruin the album eventually. So I'm gonna do a photo book for my next trip. See, those are all avenues of creating, and if I wasn't on this project, if I didn't have these ideas in my head, that's not something I'll be looking to. I've been looking for table books, and while I will still get some, I was like, why not make my own table books? I honestly got the idea from Jacques because he used to do a photo book. I'm not sure if he still does that. I wonder how he finds the time. But again, there you go. If Jacquemus running a $200 million euro brand can find time to make a photo book, I'm sure he has help. Of course, he has help. But you can imagine also he's a very busy man. Yeah. If you can find time to do that, you can find some time in your day to create something. You can find some time in your day to put together the pictures from your little trip. Pay £15 for someone to put them in a book. You have the time to pick up a vintage film camera for £10 from the charity shop, get some film, shoot some pics, and develop it and make some collages in a book or in a photo book like I'm going to do. Number 4 is career. And this is the one I never see mentioned in any of these curriculum videos. And I'm like, oh, must be some rich people out here. Because at any point, no matter what point of your career you are at, oh God, you always need to upscale, right? And I work in digital marketing. So, of course, now with AI tools, there's so many tools that I need to learn how to use. I do a bit of SEO, so I also need to learn how to optimize content for AI tools now, LLMs rather than Google. It's crazy, insane, and absolutely ridiculous for me to start learning about God knows what just because it's cool, to start learning about French Nouveau films, which I really want to check out at the moment. But it would be absolutely insane for me to prioritize that over learning something that is going to directly impact my skill set and earning potential eventually. Yes. So for career, what I always recommend for people, which is what I'm doing right now, is I go look at jobs and look at the skills they're looking for the job that I want. And first of all, if you already have those skills, then what are you doing in the job that you have? Apply and move on to the job. And then find out what they are looking for on the job market for the roles you want. And then go to Coursera, wherever, find courses to double in that thing. And then you can start to upskill and learn and get better at that thing. And then in 2, 3, 6 months, once you've gotten that skill and you fill that gap between where you are and where you want to be, then you can apply to move on to the role you actually want. If there's no specific skill, though, I cannot imagine how that would be possible because jobs are basically applying your skills. Try to find an unpaid project. Yes, I know this is not ideal, but remember, we're thinking ahead. If you do this for 6 months, probably after you finish said project, opportunity first of all could arise from that project, but also you can add that to your CV and then seek higher paying positions. So don't be too the point of this video is to not be too focused on doing things that we also want to do things that invest in our future self or just invest in our community or mindset or our mind, and they don't necessarily make an obvious return on investment. Yeah, moving on from career to number 5 is sometimes you have problems that are not specifically career or romantic or like not in the main areas of life, but these problems need solving anyway. For example, if you have cabinet to set up, if you have clothes to mend, if you have perhaps you have a website for your business that needs fixing but you cannot afford to fix, instead of learning for the aesthetics and learning French or learning Italian or learning whatever, learn how to do that. You already have that problem. Sorry, I'm getting a bit passionate because like these learning videos just tend to skew a little bit more. Oh, look at me, Dark Academia vibes. And I just want to add that please, if you're going to take time to learn, yes, I support learning for the sake of learning, but also maybe look a little bit closer to home. Charity begins at home, and think about just working on things that are going to not necessarily benefit you in the short run, but are also going to develop you mentally. Learning how to build a website is going to benefit you, and learning it for the sake of is still going to nurture you in the same way. So I don't see why it should be seen as less than just because you do need a website fixed. It's less than the person who is doing it for vibes, right? Yeah. And it's also very important to remember that just because you're learning this thing to fix your problem now does not mean it's going to stop holding value. After you finish solving said problem, perhaps you could solve that problem for other people and maybe they can pay you. So this is an opportunity to expand your skill set and also to improve your income. I do know some of you care about that, which is why I keep on bringing it up. But for me personally, that is not why I do this. If you learn, for example, I could decide, oh, I need to learn more about lighting. One of my friends was talking to me yesterday about lighting her studio. So I could learn more about lighting and help her light her studio better. But also because I work in digital marketing, that is a shockingly important skill because if I got hired somewhere where I have to help out with social content, that is something I can add to my CV and say, oh, by the way, I also know what lighting maybe users prefer on social media. Yeah, so whatever it is you learn will always prove to be useful in the future. Finally, one thing I like to add on a curriculum when developing one or what is already in my curriculum is having a long term project. My long term project at the moment is learning Italian. So I do go to Italy quite often because my partner at the moment is Italian. And so, first of all, I'm always learning a language not for any practical reasons. So, because I'm doing Mandarin, don't ask me if I remember anything. I think I remember war means I, and oh god, I really do not remember anything. But just because I was doing Duolingo, which if you're trying to learn a language, I would highly discourage you using Duolingo because it's almost useless. I had a 1,000 day streak by the time my streak ended, and I couldn't tell you one thing from other things that I was doing, and I was doing it every single day for what is that, almost 3 years? Yeah. So, but I digress. Coming back to the point, is language. Most people do want to learn a language, so this is the opportunity to explore that. So this is something where I know it does not feel like a separate thing to have in your curriculum, but in many cases, you will find that in many of the topics we covered above, you are going to work on those for 3, 4, maybe 6 months, and then they close. So first of all, when those close and before you find a new one, the long-term one can fill in those gaps. So basically, what we want on this point under the long-term project is something where in 3 months, 6 months, it's still going to keep on going, and you're not really expecting much to come from it. I guess maybe this is the one where I should just call it learning for learning's sake. It's just something you're going to continuously. I don't think I'll ever get to a point of speaking Italian where I'm like, oh, I don't need to learn anymore. So I'll just keep on learning and learning Italian. Photography perhaps is another example. I don't think there is any photographer who is like, I don't need to learn anything else. I'm good. I don't know much about the industry, but I think any good photographer will keep on learning and exploring new styles, new angles, new types of lighting, new scenery, perhaps branching out of what they already know. Perhaps a beauty photographer could try landscape photography, a wildlife photographer might try portrait photography, and all those are avenues of learning. Like if you're a beauty photographer, no one is pressuring you to produce wildlife photos, but you might think to yourself, oh, that sounds interesting. And perhaps you can try to take one every season, one in the summer, one in winter, one in spring. So you see that is spread out and only occurs when you have the time. There is no pressure to get any results from it, and you're just doing it for the sake of doing it. And like I mentioned, this is more of a format rather than a specific learning thing. Any of the things I've mentioned above, except reading, you need to read and you need to finish what you're reading. The people who write novels for 20 years will write novels for 15 years, where they would be working on that novel. Like, there's no publisher pressuring me. I don't have any pressure to make money from this because perhaps I have a job or I have kids that I take care of at home. So this is my time. Let's just say maybe the minimum requirement time you give, the minimum frequency of practicing this would be once per month. So 10 to 12 times per year. Think of something you would be okay doing that many times. So you just make that your long-term project, and then you can squeeze it in and use yourself. And this is where you find some people feel stressed about their lives because they have goals, but they're not necessarily, they don't have the time to do them. So instead of stressing yourself that, oh yeah, I've always wanted to draw, I've always wanted to learn how to do my makeup, but I don't have the time and I feel terrible, I've only been able to practice it 3 times this year. Fine, you're a surgeon. Perhaps you don't need to learn how to do your makeup in 4 months. Why? How would that benefit you? Your patients, do they even wear makeup in the operating room? I don't think so. So instead of thinking of it that way, why don't maybe in the summer book a makeup class, but in 2 or 3 years you'll be like, oh my god, I can't believe it's taken me this long to learn how to do my eyebrows. But you are not stressed about that. We should not be stressed about everything, and definitely not learning, as it's already a laborious process. So for the things that don't need to be solved and do not need to be completed, let's put them in this bucket, and whenever it's possible to tend to them, we do that. And when it's not, the other 5. Anyway, I'm gonna stop this video here. I'll an article for all my videos where I add more links, more resources in that. Just, I feel like when you watch the video, you don't want to click off, you don't want to do anything. So with an article, which I link in the description, you can do that a little bit more. And hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you like the idea of living life outside an algorithm, which I understand is ironic because you probably got recommended this by an algorithm. But now that you're here, we're going to learn how to live without it. Yeah, I'll hopefully see you next time in my next 2 videos, which are, I'll be reviewing Atomic Habits, the book, yeah, and then I'll also be doing a review of everything that I read in Q1, which are 7 books, so that's going to be really good. Otherwise, hope you have a lovely day.